It was years ago. I sat in his house, and that song that you played for me about your dad. I didn't know that. I thought y'all met. I didn't know that you saying that earlier. I never knew that. I thought y'all had met, but I didn't know that. But it was a very vivid song. It was basically, him writing a letter to his father. But the thing I want to commend to you right now, brother, every time I see you, you with your son. The last time I seen you, you was with your son. Your son will never have those thoughts or those feelings. So you're reversing that cycle and that stigma of what so many men have, black men, are going through mentally. So I commend you.
I received that.
Always.
I received that. I love you for that. Oh, that made my heart smile.
But that's a big thing. Like, we grow up without our fathers.
Listen.
He grew up without his father. I never see him without his son to this day. That's a beautiful thing.
Definition of breaking generational curses right there.
Yeah, 100%.
Every generation works at getting better.
That's it.
Yo, I got a lot of living to do before I die. I ain't got time to waste. Time don't wait. Everything costs. Time been money. I don't fool with homie. Slime been funny. I don't do no jokes unless I'm the one telling them. Y'all nasty like 69. Y'all boys telling. Stay away from goofies. This is not a movie. Avoiding loopholes from U-Haul, you don't move me.
All right, peace, big love, big blessings, even bigger living. Everything that comes with it, everything in between. I'm Samuel David, the host of Thinking Out Loud with Samuel David. And as you can see, we have a special episode popping off today. We got a packed house. We are here at Midwest Blends Barbershop. Shout out to our sponsor. But we're gonna have a mental health conversation, right? But I wanna, before I jump into all of that introduction of where we're going with it, I wanna mention and introduce who we're going there with. So, to my right, I've got one of my great friends, my barber, fellow mental health advocate, and my Virgo brother, D-Wall. What's happening, family?
What's good?
To my left, I got one of my greatest friends in the world. He calls himself the Big Sam, bigger than me. No, my brother Sam Breeden, mental health advocate, co-founder of Reach Out to Someone Else organization, which is a mental health organization, and founder of Organized Grind Marketing and Branding. What's happening, Sam? Glad to have you in the building.
Good to be here, brother.
My man Chris Gilmore in the building. Prevention Director at Mental Health America.
Thank you.
Thank you for showing up with us. Chris Jones, the flyest therapist I've ever seen in my life, with fully connected counseling.
Yes, sir.
Licensed therapist.
Licensed therapist.
Glad to have you, brother.
Man, appreciate it.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
We got Angie Watson.
Hello.
Hello. COO, Chief Operating Officer over at Mental Health America. So glad to have you today, Angie.
you.
Yes, indeed. And we got Miss Gabrielle Jones. Can I call you Gabby?
You can.
We got Gabby Jones in the building, licensed marriage and family therapist with Healing and Harmony Counseling. Therapy. No, thank y'all for showing up today.
Man, yeah.
Listen, it's a packed house, and I know before the conversation, before we jumped on camera, I said, don't talk, because we're gonna have so much thorough conversation. We're gonna act like the camera's not even here. But I wanna preface it with why we're having this conversation, right? So I'm the board chair over at Mental Health America, and Gabby joined me in the MHA team, right? And we were talking about Juneteenth in a way that MHA can have an impact, a stronger impact in the Black community, from offering services to even what the employment looks like, right? And Angie shared that they recently had a conversation, I believe, with an insurer or something like that, and they were talking about the barbershop. We were like, oh yeah, the barbershop is where Black men get real and have some of the most honest, transparent, candid conversations.
Most definitely.
And Gabby was like, Sam, you should do your show. And was like, oh, this all makes sense. It was like perfect divine intervention type situation. So that's why we're here. That's how we ended up here. And the last disclaimer I gotta put on it, we in the barbershop. You feel me? So the conversation is gonna be candid, transparent, real, honest, because that's how it goes down in here, right? It's really not a lot of bars held back when you're in the barbershop, conversation-wise, language-wise. I will say, if you got something that you do not want to be on camera 25 years from now, you might not mention it, right? Because cameras for forever, but just an engaging, genuine conversation, right? Angie, we've had conversation where you mentioned that you might show up and people say, is that a cop? right?
that. And they also tell me you look like a
in the
sexual
barbershop or
worker.
just in general?
Why is she here?
Why is she here, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's a grand question, right? And I'm all about ripping the Band-Aid off and the elephant in the room,
Well,
right?
That's funny.
Like, I feel like we have to have that conversation.
Mhm.
Everyone needs to be at the table to have that conversation.
Mhm.
And for me, it would be very intimidating walking in here. And I think people would look at me like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Well, because people have asked me if I'm a cop. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
And are you?
No,
Chris said, are you?
Get that on the table.
Just checking it out real quick.
I am not a cop.
Right, but I know one of your big goals in this conversation in general, even, right, is to engage and see what it's like in the barbershop. And I love the diverse factors, right? We got Chris in here, white dude. You probably don't come to a barbershop like this often.
I shave my own head. And
You feel me, right? Gabby, right? You don't
right,
come to the bar. Now you
Now I'm about to start making
life.
this my second home then because I got
Right,
the invite.
Right.
So-
It's crazy because like I've been cutting my own hair, believe it or not, for like since COVID, right? So I had to hit up my barber Dorian recently because it's like therapy,
Yeah.
you know. So I had a therapist of my own, but like I miss like being able to be in the shop because like what Dee was saying, like the shop is that space where you can just really just feel safe as a man, you know, because there's not much spaces as men where you can be able to feel safe nowadays, especially as black men. Right.
I
I
often
think
say
that's why
that.
this was important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, you're good. You're good. I often say that the barbershop is like for black men, it's our country club.
It's the country club.
It's our
Free
country
membership.
club,
Well,
essentially,
then they get the
right.
cuts though.
Right.
Let me ask you this, Chris. So you mentioned you have a therapist
Yeah,
as a
right.
therapist.
Right,
And
right.
you said you don't come to the barbershop often. But if you come into the
Right.
barbershop, like do you, as the conversation is going, because we talk masculinity, we talk toxic
Absolutely,
masculinity,
absolutely.
and trying to break the toxic masculinity piece without breaking masculinity. When you come in the shop, would you find yourself as a therapist trying to course correct the conversation? Like if brothers is out of line, or would you just?
I don't course correct any conversation, even in my clinical setting. Like if there's a certain conversation happen, you want to be able to meet your clients where they're at. So like if I come in the shop and you guys are talking about whatever, like I'm gonna figure out a way how to, chime in. You know, but when it comes to masculinity, it's really about understanding the duality between the lion and the lamb. You see, you can be able to pretty much like the lion's like, hey, I can tear some shit up. Right. But at the same time, I can be able to have that grace like the lamb. And so nowadays with several other podcasts, everything is so divisive. We don't understand necessarily like what masculinity looks like. And then two, I do believe there is a direct attack on masculinity just because of certain different systems. And, men struggle so much, just in general, white or black. But the black man, I would say, definitely struggles probably the most when you just look at, systematic issues, disease, you name it. So there's a big struggle on men in general. And I think we get overlooked just because of different ways how systems are put up.
For sure.
So this is that safe space here. You know?
This that safe space. What's
I got a question for all the men in here.
Yeah.
How do you just left? Knowing that I would say everybody in here, just met you. Yeah. It seems to be a emotionally intelligent group of men. How do you operate in these spaces? And if you see a fellow brother or your homie operating from a lens that you know is not helpful or beneficial to where he want to be, or contributing to where we want black men to be as a society, I would say. How do you offer and chime in and stay, hold your counterparts accountable?
I'm gonna have Sam answer that one.
You mean specifically in the barbershop or
Just in general?
In general.
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
We're here, but if you do it if I'm assuming it happens in the barbershop, or if it doesn't, then how do you?
I would say it depends on the individual that I'm speaking with. Because a lot of times, say for instance, my relationship with Sam may be different from his. Okay. So I can speak with him differently than I would speak with him.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I know him. Right. So it just depends on how well you know the individual and whatnot. But I'm a big guy as far as speaking up and saying, hey, brother, chill out.
Okay. So
you know what I mean? You're wrong. You know what I mean? Just, or not necessarily saying you're wrong, but trying to verbally steer them in a different direction.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In that aspect, because the brother may be lacking in a certain area. So you always got to be mindful of what you say to individuals, because they may not be on your thinking level.
Right.
Do you think that makes
that's a
people
real
look
one.
at? If you do that, I love that. Do you think that if any of y'all do that, that makes the other person or the other man look at y'all different? We live in a society where everything, if you are emotionally intelligent or you trying to like push back, you're a simp, you sassy, you this, you that.
You know, I think it's social media for one gives us like a certain lens into everybody's lives as much as we let in, right? And so speaking from like my experience, the way people see me or perceive me is like the young big homie family man. So if I'm offering advice relationship wise, parent wise, then I recognize that it's received a little more, it's received good, right? Because I'm setting an example.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one of the big things when it comes to like chin checking or keeping your homie accountable or keeping a brother accountable. It's like, yo, I can't hold you to it if I'm not being held to it intentionally.
And you also got to check their temperature too.
Ooh, that's
A
real.
lot of people don't know what that means, but you got to see what type of time everybody is on before you even approach that different conversation. Because when it comes down to it, you never know what that person might be, what mood that person might be in. They might not be in the mood to be, vulnerable to open up to you. So it's like, okay, let me, sit back and watch his mood. See how he, how he vibe and how he walk in, or how I'm approach him. That's real big too. And that's a lot of people's intelligence aren't, like he said, aren't on the same level as everybody else's. So it's like, you might have a person who is right here, but then when you tell them or they try to steer you to another direction, it kind of gravitates down, or or they kind of gravitates above you, and they feel some kind of way. They feel intimidated, right? Feel like, oh, okay, well, I got to check him because he came at me all kind of way.
Or meeting people where they are. I think that's one of the greater levels of emotional intelligence, right? Like, because if I'm in a room and I'm like, oh, bro is lost. How can I communicate in a way that he's gonna receive it without me sounding like an asshole or me sounding like I'm trying to sun him? Like, it might come with a little joke.
Guys that are on the straight and narrow are looked at as less than. Guys that are in the streets are looked at as it's a hierarchy.
They on a pedestal.
You know what I mean? They're looked at differently. It's society wise and whatnot. But we don't salute, in my opinion, here, they use a lot of terms that look at those individuals that they're lame.
Square. I got that.
They
I got
give them
that.
a term,
man.
You know what I mean?
And that's, I honestly feel like, because people would say, oh, look at Urkel. Look at Urkel. I got that my whole life, man. That's one of the reasons why I didn't wear glasses in school, but then I was starting to not perform as well because I couldn't see the board. So I somehow convinced my mom to get me contacts. Probably like 4th, 5th grade, probably the earliest person with contacts, because I didn't want to wear it. I want to wear these.
I used to go to 5th grade, middle school. Elementary. I used to take my glasses.
People call you square. Like, look at this dude. Yep,
now when I'm older.
Yeah, I didn't know that term, bro, until
which
I got. I've been here for quite some time now, but
square.
That wasn't a term I grew up.
Yeah, like even like some of my clients,
with
like
yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
And I look at it as anybody doing anything positive.
Honestly, that's kind of what it is today. You do something good, you do something right.
Right.
They think Russell Wilson's a square.
Really?
But you know what's funny about that conversation?
That's crazy.
Is
okay, bro.
They weren't talking bad about the man, but that's how it's construed, right? Is I take being a square like, yo, I'd rather be a square than to be in a coffin.
I say it all the time.
Than to be in a box.
Squares are winning.
You feel me?
They're not avoiding jail. They're being productive in society.
You feel me?
You know what I mean? I don't have any knock against anyone that was
because you do what you know.
You do what you know. You do what you grew up. I don't hold anything against anyone who plays in the street. You know what I mean? I salute them in a way.
Yeah.
Because that's not an easy thing to do. And to have success at it, being in the street, that's a very difficult thing to do.
There's no such thing as success in the streets.
Well,
not for long.
I think you would define success
to a certain extent.
To a certain extent. I say success.
I know what you mean.
You're earning.
Absolutely.
You're making this mean. You're earning things. You live in a comfortable life. Being successful. You have the element of the police. Somebody coming to rob you. Whatever you may be dealing in.
You're damn near doing the same thing as a CEO that knows how to navigate regulations and laws.
You could be.
If you are a boss.
Yeah, you could.
But everybody ain't a boss.
Everybody's not a boss.
That's the part. I want to go back to something real quick though, because it was a small thing. You was talking about how you learn the glasses, you learn from being a youth. Brothers, fellas, what's something that you had to unlearn from your youth as you've grown into being the man you are today?
For me, I think it's like the point you were saying, like, especially like just like I realized the older I get, you know, sometimes I don't listen to certain artists because sometimes I feel like when I listen to hip hop, I spend a lot of money, you know, or, you know, being in a relationship, sometimes it's like, man, I think the thing I had to unlearn is realize it's not cool to talk to multiple women, you know, like maybe middle school, high school, like you said, like you kind of get praised, like, oh, you got how many girls you got?
Right.
Yeah. But now you get older, you're like, and it should be common sense. I knew that, like watching my dad and whatnot. But then again, trying to be accepted by your peers and everything like that, you do get this validation. Because I had a client, you know, he's from Bloods, and I asked him the question, like, why do you want to be in the game, man? You're already popular enough. Like, why'd you join? And he said, man, because it's the quickest way you can get bitches. And I was like, well, those kind of girls, you don't need to be talking to them sexy red kind of people anyway. I was like, you don't need to be talking to those girls anyways because they don't get you in trouble. Yeah. But for him, he's like, he was him being honest. He says it's the quickest way he can get to the girls.
Because that's what he knows.
That's what he knows.
That's dynamic.
Isn't that crazy?
That's wild. But
I think that's a value thing too.
It's a value
what do we
thing.
value? Because if you where do you place your value? Like you place it in women, how many women you get, or you place it on what is your definition of a successful man? I would ask if I was
exactly.
I would wonder what he
that would be a really good question.
Yeah.
Man. Oh, that's bars.
What would you say your definition is?
Yeah, no, because I had to unlearn being honest and vulnerable here myself. I had to unlearn some of those things. My friends would say I have a type. My therapist would say I'm gonna say had, because it's not me no more, had a type. And I was going for
6 pack, 6 feet, 6 figures.
Definitely.
The 3 6s.
There's some judgment there.
Minimum height 6'3".
Yes,
I'm tall. I'm 5'9" though.
You are pretty
and
tall.
I want D1 children. So like that's where that came from.
D1 children.
Yes, but I had to unlearn kind of like what Sam was talking about, right. Streets. You be in the streets, but don't be so far in, but also you can GQ it. You can be multifaceted. You can do both. I know you about that life, and I know you're not gonna play about me, and you're not gonna play about your business. Also, though,
gentleman.
Yes, and what I found was those type of men, though, they weren't encompassing everything that I needed. They were hella emotionally unavailable, tempers, very angry, very suppressed emotions. Didn't have the ability to hold the space that I need. And so now, my definition of you handling your business. If you have a family, you're taking care of, providing for your family, whether that's 50-50, 70-30, you know, that whole conversation we have as a community. You're romantic. You're holding that space. You are allowing me to flourish. And you know that we're a team. There is no I in team. That's so cliche, but there isn't an I in team. You're a leader. We use TikTok these days, but I can literally turn my brain off when I'm with my man. Like I should be able to. I just saw a TikTok yesterday. Yeah, they was in Target, and he was like, the TikTok was like, okay, exits here, and the girl was like humming, and she was like, just because.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that one.
Yes,
protector. That's
right, 100%.
Where I fall short, he can pick up. Where he falls short, I'm there to also.
Right.
The analogy is, if a man, these are my views, if a man is the head of the house, I'm the neck. The head can't turn without the neck, though.
Yeah, but I feel, and I think I agree with you on that point right there, because as a man, our job is really to provide and protect, you know, provision and protection. So what that looks like in 2024 is money. And so nowadays, like, you know, women now can be able to have that economic freedom, which is a very good thing. But I feel like in our community, it never was grandpa's house. It was grandma's house. You feel me? So it's always been in our community, I feel like, there's been, you know, this is the barbershop, a lot of women who don't trust us. They don't value us as men unless we're doing something. Our value is not just by being, we always got to do something. And then, so I think a lot of, sometimes not all, but some black women don't trust black men.
I got something go ahead.
You know, it's ill, especially.
I know this, I'm opening up a can of
worms. No, we're going there. We're going
but I'm
there.
just keeping it real.
Because we talk about, like, and it's kind of double the conversation, right? Something I had to unlearn as well as like what a man is, the foundation, as well as we talk grandma's house, right? And I think out loud, so bear with me. But I think to something I had to unlearn first and foremost.
That's the name of the podcast?
That's the name of the podcast for that reason.
Exactly.
But something I had to unlearn was realizing that every man that I knew as a youth had a life. passed away before when I was like 2 or 3, something like that. The guy that raised me, Sam was mentioning a song that I made before, right? I made the song about him, and it was full of emotion, full of like being pissed off, being mad, right? After I had my son, Lil Sam, I thought about my relationship with the guy that I call him my godfather, right?
Right.
I thought about that relationship, and I was like, damn, if I'm going through this and I feel the way I feel daily as a man in America, as a man in real life, and I have somewhat of a foundational structure, I have like, I'm able to navigate. I can only imagine what it was like then when there wasn't that language, when there wasn't that type of support or that type of foundational family, right? Absolutely. So then I think to grandma's house, and I'm like, damn, all my grandma's brothers, they drank, right?
Yeah.
That was their outlet. But grandma and them didn't have that luxury because they had to make sure the kids was held down.
Right.
And so just looking at the way a lot of that foundation has been broken down generation-wise, generation after generation, and I think it's a fair stomping ground.
Right, because they've been holding it down for so long. So it's
holding
like,
it down.
but then again, this goes back to systematic issues. Like literally men were not allowed to be in the homes, you know? And so for the exact reason to.
So if you make a statement like that, you got to back it up with a little bit of something.
Yeah, we got to back it up a little bit of something. I mean, don't quote me off the you know, I don't have it. At the end of the day, we know, right? There's been a direct attack to be able to destroy the family unit.
100%.
You feel me? So, especially as the black man, you
Talking
know,
COINTELPRO, Reaganomics, all
this is not conspiracy. I mean, family is the backbone of the country. So then, if you can be able to pretty much dismantle that, you know, you can be able to have power and control.
Are you talking the African American family or family in general? I just want to make sure I understand.
It started with the African American family by how they, you know, literally had highways that went through black cities, you know, from redlining, from, you know, white flight, you name it.
Yeah.
Black folks couldn't get certain homes in certain communities. So we were in a disadvantage. But now the name of the game is they're affecting white families now. At this point, you know, with just different things going on in the community and whatnot. But the family, once again, is the backbone to society. And it's the backbone of society. So if you can be able to manipulate that, like if the devil wanted to be able to control a nation, you're going to start with the family. You see what I'm saying?
Head.
You're going to start with the family.
Just to piggyback off what you were talking about, just mass incarceration. I'm 45 years old. As a
Man,
youth,
you look young, man.
Yeah, appreciate that.
45
I was
years
just gonna
old.
say, no way.
Appreciate that.
Come on, Black.
But there's a
Man, I'm trying to look
Black
like that.
don't crack.
Y'all know he's a former NFL player.
well, I get to that.
Okay, say less. Keep going.
But-
Mass incarceration.
Mass incarceration. There was a time when I was growing up, when it was the early 90s, and there was a term called super predators. Never knew what that term meant as a youth, but as I would get older, I started to, you know, basically understand what that meant. So
Super predators?
super predators. And our current president was part of that movement. It was Biden, he was a senator at the time, and Clinton. They were the two.
Arkansas.
Governor. He was the governor of Arkansas at the time. But there was a big push for, there was this term called super predators, and it was dedicated towards a specific group. Me not realizing I was a part of that group as a youth. And time went past, and I, like I said, I never knew what it meant until I, you know, just began my own understanding of life in general, or what, you know, the things that's going on. So the super predators was a group of individuals, mostly black youth, during this specific time period in the 90s. And there was a big push by the administration to target this specific group.
Was there a reason why?
There was no reason why. There's never been a reason why to target Black America. I mean, it's just part of an agenda.
Yeah. What do you
What
think?
they used probably was gang violence.
Well,
because
obviously,
it was on the news all the time.
The gang file here in Wichita, shout out to Des and Brian and the group that's worked to fight the gang file, but it's the same thing there, right? Like if you associated, you are now on file and you are an associated gang member, and they can pull whatever they want, right? I'm not all the way familiar with the law, so I don't want to quote it too much, but it's that. And then you think from overseer to officer. Shout out to KRS-One in that lyric, but overseer, right, on the plantations to
that was
officer.
the first officer on the plantation.
Right, it's so many layers to it. Let me ask this, because I know I know one of your things, Angie, right, is looking to get into the African American community especially with MHA and the therapist group, right? How challenging is it to identify cultural differences, right, that may prevent, right, a Black male from seeking therapy, or once they do,
there's so
breaking
many
through?
layers that would prevent, and that's the key from my perspective. I can't. All I can do is listen to learn.
For sure.
Right, and acknowledge that there's so many layers that would impact someone feeling safe to come into a therapist's office. And from my perspective, we're not. I've learned a lot more in the past 10 years. My daughter married a Black man. I have biracial grandchildren, and I've seen a lot of the stuff they've had to live with. And so it's helped me in learning, but I still, I'm still learning.
So do you find yourself empathizing or sympathizing in those spaces?
I'm empathizing.
For sure.
I empathize, and I want to make changes, but I feel like we can't make changes until we all acknowledge the issues.
Does it piss you off if your grandchildren are subjected to certain kind of things as Black kids, and you realize and you know that it's stemming from race, or if they're old enough to experience that? Does it make you want to do something different?
Yes, and that's because it's affected me more personally. So I have to acknowledge that.
I was going to say,
I absolutely have to acknowledge that. You know, my son was pulled over for speeding, and he could have been arrested. He was going so fast. And the officer didn't just ticket him, and I said, you know, that's white privilege. I just want you to understand that. That is white privilege. As fast as you were going, he was driving a very nice car. And I mean, he was 100 and some. I mean, he really should have been
reckless driving.
Yes, he really should have been arrested. And my husband, who was like, "No, Angie," and I'm like, "No, it is. You need to acknowledge this. We need to acknowledge it." And my husband has really come a long ways, I think, in understanding.
As a Black man, I can honestly say that being a white male was probably one of the hardest things. No, honestly, like me and my wife, we talk about it all the time. Like, I wonder, like, what's just how living in the society today and how sensitive a lot of things can be. Just in general, just thoughts that may go through a elder white man's mind, or just, you know, just in general, because you may see him just out of the blue. And there's things that go through our mind when we see a white man. So I'm sure there's things that may go through you guys' mind as well, based on experiences. And I think and half of racism is based on, in my opinion, is based on experiences. The other half, in my opinion, is taught. Now,
this turn to isms.
Right. Because you have a negative experience with them too.
I do think experiences 100%. Really do.
It plays a huge part.
Come into play.
It plays a huge part.
I mean, I was assaulted by a Black man when I was in college, and that really did impact me for a long time.
Right.
So I do think experiences do come into play.
And as we have to understand, there's nothing wrong with you having a negative thought towards that.
But it's acknowledging it, to me, is
I was going to say, how does that impact you, that you experience that, and then you also are trying to unlearn, and you are trying to hold space for the Black people around you, and acknowledging, though, like, you had some trauma and some shit happened to you, and you are also, you know, every Black person, every Black person ain't the same. We ain't, we're not.
None
of us are.
I was going to say, this ain't a one size fit all.
No, I think it's, when you're unlearning bias and you're working through trauma, it's acknowledging it. For me, it's really acknowledging it and really paying attention to what thoughts I have and checking them. Is this rational? Is this irrational?
Where is this coming from?
Where is this coming from?
Okay.
It's interesting, right? And Chris, I'm gonna get to you to answer that question. You've had a little bit of time to think, so I know you're gonna have something good, right?
That's a good question.
But I want to talk about that too, right? You mentioned the being assaulted by a Black man and the bias he gave you, right? The thoughts he gave you. I remember as a kid, I seen OJ on TV. I learned about Emmett Till, right, when I was like 9 years old, and then seeing the false accusations that came against Kobe Bryant. So as a youngster, I had a strong bias against white women. Didn't trust them, right? And I have two conscious bias: white women. The same. It's all not the same, but it's still that idea, that thought, right? Is a struggle for me. I'm saying that out loud, right?
It really is.
And I mentioned even coming into board meetings, right? Like
You did, yeah.
right? Like I
That's
tried.
big.
I don't ever want to be the token, right? And I never want to be seen as the gatekeeper for all things black, right? And I can't find myself shrinking. Right, so I show up the way I show up. I speak the way I speak. I don't say awesome. I say shit like dope. That's fire, right? You feel me? Like it's a real thing. So
I know. I mean, I am learning that my age is showing. I feel like because I'm like, I don't know what's in this.
right.
To elaborate what you have said, I experienced I guess I want to say the movie experience of being a black male and dealing with a white girl that lied on me. You know?
Man, I experienced that too.
My grandparents were livid. My mom was livid before she passed.
It's like, why you bring that white girl around here?
It wasn't even. I didn't even. And the thing was, I didn't even bring her around. It was the fact that we were in class. Some other black dudes that was around me doing things they had no business doing, and I got pointed the finger at. And I'm just like, okay, I've never been targeted like that before until that day. Even the cop, he was white. He was just pouring down on me, trying to get me to break. And I'm like, what am I telling you this for? Like, you want me to admit to something I didn't do, and I'm not going to do it. Later on down the line, like still to this day, I say like, yeah, I would never, like I have a son. I don't even want my son to experience that. But now to the day, I just be like, okay, I gotta move. I have a friend that's white, and we click like it ain't no tomorrow, and I don't have no problem, now. But before, it was kind of hard for me to get to that. Even in college, like it was kind of hard for me to get to that. I'm like, yeah, no, I ain't going. Even the baseball team, I was the liquor store man. Hey, you can go to the liquor store for us, like. Even then, I was just like, I don't know, I've never been disrespected until that point. And that just had me, from that point on until I graduated high school, I was just like, I don't know what I'll do, But now, it's whatever.
What helped you get over it?
Talking about it.
Yeah.
And pouring out my heart. Like I've never sat back and just talked about it. I talk about it a lot, even to my fiance now. Like I talked about it with her, and I tell her, like I don't even want your kids experience that, let alone my kids, and I've never really just cried about it. And when I talk about it and I put it on the table, I'm letting it out more, so I've dealt with it in numerous ways, but me just putting it on the table for other people to know what's really going on, I just, that's just my experience. I even tell the kids that I cut.
Okay, wow.
You can't hear what you don't reveal.
Right.
That's
I think one of
That's
the
allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
That
That's
part.
amazing.
I feel really honored to sit in this space with you right now, and I really respect you for sharing that. You didn't have to.
Right.
And that's very courageous of you. So for real, shout out to you.
Appreciate that.
I think one of the interesting things when we talk race dynamics even, right, is the power piece of it, right? And it's interesting. So Chris, I got to come back to you.
Man,
and the question that Sam asked. And I'm also add on to it, right?
Sure.
I was a diversity manager for a little bit. And in most companies, the diversity teams have network groups, employee resource groups. And they may go from generational, multicultural, women's, pride, and disabilities. And one of the biggest things I would hear often from white men is there's no group for me.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's the realest.
Right. So I don't want to
today living it. That's the realest thing ever.
So coming back to the question Sam asked, right? Like he mentioned that that may be one of the hardest things in the world right now.
Right.
As people are more in tune, more sensitive, the power dynamic is shifting a little bit where white men aren't fully in control.
Yeah.
Right. What is it like as a white man in America?
So I don't speak for all white
I like
men.
that you said
And I don't usually want to be associated with most white men. We'll throw that out there too. Because honestly, part of me wants to say, just put on your big boy pants
freely,
and deal
brother.
with it.
Speak freely.
Because the systems are set up to work for me. There's very few places I walk in that I'm not able to thrive in just naturally. There's very few times getting pulled over by the police. I should have been arrested how many times in ways, but I was just a white kid from the suburbs, and it was just, oh, boys are boys, and let it go. That's not everybody's story.
Yeah.
So the systems have tilted towards white male for a very, very long time. There's no stories anymore of our first white male president, right? That's just been the story the whole time. We don't have first white male Olympic gymnast. It's just, that's the story.
That's pretty good right there. Man.
And so it requires some humility to say, this has not been everybody's story. And the very natural response, I want to be like, well, not all white guys. But I've also been the white guy who's judged, who's skated on something he shouldn't have, who's made jokes that maybe even at the time I knew I shouldn't make. Like, I've been part of it without. So I need to sometimes just step back. It's not about me. There needs to be room for people to have space, to grieve, to name things. I don't have to be defensive. I'm not protecting myself. I can just say, yep, I hear what you're saying. Not my experience. My day job, I go into the middle schools. So I'm in the school all the time, and as a white male in South New Jersey. Wow. And like school to prison pipeline, how we discipline, it's different. And so I just need to pause and listen and hear, and I don't have to feel threatened or defensive in my best moments.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are times I definitely have, but to me, having spaces that people can be honest and name, like, that hurts, this is painful. I don't need to have spaces for white guy grievance hour, because it's everywhere. Like, we can just relax for a little bit, listen, and hopefully bring some justice back to the scales, balance some things out a little bit.
Let me ask you this, and I know Gabby asked it earlier, as far as like holding each other, holding men accountable. Do you find yourself holding other white men who may be?
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah,
right.
I have a strong group of friends who I really feel like we're trying to do better.
Okay.
And so we're sharing resources, things we've heard, things we've learned. I try to read widely and diversely so that I can hear other people's perspectives and then share that information, because it's not gonna get better until we get better. And
Hey, Chris, let me ask you this from a generational perspective. So if I look in my family, it's my parents, right, who are really struggling. It's in my generation, this wasn't talked about. You're all so woke. You're so, so do you find that with white men, maybe more 60s?
Yeah, definitely older generations for sure. We're a segregated culture still. We don't have enough relationships. That's part of why our family chose Wichita. We wanted our kids we lived in Kentucky for a while, and it was just a very...
Is it super white out there?
Our count, within 3 miles of our home, there was like 7 black people and 3,000 people. And so we were just we chose Wichita on purpose. We chose Wichita Public. When we moved here, everybody was like, go to Andover. Our schools are safe. And we chose Wichita because to me, having kids from different religions and races and economic status is a bonus. You're learning how to be a good human.
You're getting your kids ready for the world, because around 2030, we're all going to look like Steph Curry.
Yes.
But
what's the movie? Dang, what's the movie? This the the Jamie Foxx movie. They clone Tyrone.
Yes.
That's pretty much what's
That's a
happening
good
in the
movie.
movie.
That's a
It's
good
hilarious.
Do
really
you find
excellent
that way of having to navigate that way? Do you find that draining?
Yeah.
In a sense, because I would, to be honestly, if the roles were reversed, I would feel drained going out into the world every day, knowing that I have to. I'm not racist, I'm just speaking of if I was a white guy,
right?
Or I'm not. I don't feel this particular way about black people, but just the thought of they may be, because of the color of my skin, they may perceive that I'm.
Do you hear how ill that is to even ask that question?
You know what I mean?
Because you said you're 45.
Right.
You've been a black man for 45 years.
Exactly.
And you've had to deal with what you deal with for 45 years that the shit is normal.
Right.
You don't even consider it when you walk out the door. It's
Right.
like you know what's coming. Everything you asking him is what you've dealt with more than likely for a
yeah,
good amount of
yeah,
your life.
Oh, yeah,
which is wild.
100%.
Like, just
but I
thinking it
never
out
heard
loud.
it from
And it's wild to
that
think that it might
perspective.
be exhausting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It may
And
be
not
exhausting.
you.
No. It may
That's
be.
why
I'm
I'm
just.
like-
I'm trying to figure out, is it exhausting for a white male
Yeah.
in that 40s, 30s to just have to filter through so damn much sometimes, man. You may be the, I don't know, you may be the coolest guy in the world.
I'm not, I promise.
But you know what I mean? But just having to deal with, you may go somewhere, the guy may look at you like, he's based off the color of your skin.
Here
You
come
know
this
what I mean?
cop.
No, I've been definitely called a cop before, and
Oh,
definitely,
yeah.
and like
But I've always been interested just to know.
Yeah, I personally, I don't find it exhausting.
Right.
For me, part of it is if I do feel exhaustion, it's black men in the room. Let me make room for somebody who has a different, because again, as the white male, I mean, I focus largely on sexism and that kind of thing in my just day to day. I also am a minister in a church, and the church is full of rampant sexism and in too many ways. And like my journey to become a minister was just smooth and easy. And my wife, who has far more theological education than I do, her journey was bumpy and rocky and hard. And it's just because systems work for me. And so the things that are maybe exhausting are just, okay, slow down, back up.
Right.
But to me, if I can do that, it is also refreshing.
I got you.
And so I definitely know there are white men who feel victimized and wounded, and I just to them say, just listen, hear the stories, get to know people, because it's not about you, it's not centered on you, and everybody's story is not the same. And the things that you all have walked out of your homes dealing with as women, as black men, are entirely different and far more exhausting than learning to keep your mouth shut or to scoot your table out, make room at the table, those kinds of things.
And I think there's
Can I ask Gabby a question real quick?
Yeah.
Because we keep talking about the different diverse factors, right? And the last time I checked the stats, especially as you keep talking sexism, the last time I checked the stats, black women and homosexual males, that part may have shifted a little bit, right?
Okay.
Cover the most in the professional setting, right? And y'all know what I mean when I say cover. Like you shrink yourself, you hide what your life might be like outside of work, things like that. What is life like as a black woman in 2024? We've talked about the white experience, the white female experience a little bit, the black male experience. What's that like?
That's tough.
Man, it's draining sometimes. I'm fulfilled a lot of the time, but it's very draining. I think about, I'm gonna give an example. I did a panel last week or a week ago for senior VPs, execs at a major company. And I walked in the room and there was 3 black women in there. Walked in there, hey sis, what's going on? It's giving, just our AAVE. And then I realized, I sat down and then in came the white folks. And one, my heart started beating fast, but 2, it was more so, hi, I'm Gabrielle. So immediately it's like, and I'm really big on authenticity. That's one of my main core values. So while I'm shaking your hand and saying, hi, I'm Gabrielle, I didn't just greet you. Hey sis, what's going on? You look beautiful. I had to watch the way I spoke about things. I had to make sure my grammar was correct. It was proper. It was this, it was that, as opposed to I could speak freely and fluently with the other women in there who also made me feel safe. So between the code switching and me being put in this box of what they think I'm supposed to be because I'm educated and whatever the case is, it's I often talk about people putting on a mask. And it's so easy for all of us, if we're not okay or whatever the case is, we often say, I'm fine. How you doing? I'm fine. But when we say that, the acronym for fine is feeling insecure, nervous, and emotional. We are often feeling that way when we say, I'm fine. So as opposed to saying, today ain't my day, I'm just not feeling it and I know it's going to get better. Putting on a mask because I'm supposed to be I'm supposed to be the strong black woman. I'm supposed to be independent. I'm supposed to do, I'm tired. I'm tired.
Do you think we should code switch? Like, what about if you just don't code switch at all?
Then I would say I have to look at the opportunities that could be taken away from me, or things that I might miss out on because of if I'm in here being like right now, you're getting the authentic me. Sometimes my Nebraska tone will come out or whatever the case is, but am I going to be afforded less opportunities? Am I going to be deemed as the angry Black woman, ghetto, anything of the sort that people like to say or call Black women when they have no knowledge or recollection about anything that we've been through or gone through?
Yeah. So is that a fear or an actualization? And I asked that.
I think it's a fear.
It's a fear,
because if
okay.
I think it is because if I operate in a certain way or I say certain things, or I'm like, well, dang, they won't choose me for, I have these goals. God has these goals for me. So how I combat that personally is everything's already mine. It's written in the good book, the Bible is what I call it. It's going to be mine. Nothing can stop that plan for me. So I shouldn't have to, unfortunately, because everything, how I feel, especially in the field that I work in, this is not a Black dominated field. This is a field that has been pioneered by white women, white men, most importantly. So trying to pave my own way and path as Black clinicians in this world, I don't necessarily know that people would be in agreement with everything that I have to say. And so that tends to, sometimes I might mute myself. Right. That sounds really crazy to say out loud.
No, it's real. That's what I was talking right, the stat.
Yeah.
I often think about that though, like the shrinking piece. And I recognize I got male privilege when I walk in a room as well. I'm a Black male, but
they're gonna respect you before they're gonna shake your hand. I've noticed that too. I hate when I'm talking to someone, specifically a male, and if I'm with a man, they'll often, if I could be asking the damn question,
They'll look at the man.
Bruh, like I just fucking asked you that. I just got kind of upset right there, but like, what are you talking about? I just asked and I just approached you and asked you, and it could be deemed as a respect man to man thing. I'm not gonna. Okay.
Well, I'm not to say I'm not all the time, but
it's like you just didn't acknowledge me at all. Like I'm invisible,
and that happens a lot.
That's disrespectful
across the board.
You know what I mean? But acknowledgement.
People will talk to my husband, and I was the one who asked the question, and they answer my husband, and I'm going.
And I get it. It could be a respect thing. Another man and another woman's man. I get all of those dynamics and factors as well, and it feels I already have it already. Pokes at my negative core belief already. So then I'm like,
real quick though, how bad do you want to be in? And this is for anybody, because that's what I was getting to, right? Like I've made it a conscious effort in the corporate spaces that I'm in to not shrink. Because if I gotta shrink, I don't know if I want to be here.
Be there,
right? Like, is that a thought that comes across? Like, yo, I don't know how to shrink. You 6'4", I mean.
You know what I mean? Well, just on the level, just where I came from.
This is the secret how he never ages is he doesn't shrink.
Well, what I mean, just don't shrink. Because my wife, she asked me this. I've been around a lot of famous people.
Yeah, for sure.
And she asked me, how do you feel when you're in that room? I feel like I'm supposed to be in that room. That's just something that was given to me by the men that I grew up with. And I feel like I'm supposed to be where I'm at.
Yeah.
Not ever shrinking to anyone.
Because you're secure with yourself.
Right? Very
I think
secure.
I'm adopting that. Like I'm supposed to be.
And you have to be.
Yeah.
You have to
that takes work, I think.
Because if everybody code switches, then now it just makes this dynamic.
But I wasn't always there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Going back to what you talked about the NFL. The NFL is based on a measuring stick. And going back to your question, what did you have to unlearn? I had to unlearn. I'm not being measured by anything. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Height, I was measured by that. Speed,
definitely.
How well I run this, how well I do that. The NFL, bro, it's the ultimate measure of a person.
Wow.
Because you measured on every single level, your height, how you jump, and most athletes take that with them when they're done with their, with their sport. They take that in life. And so you have to unlearn that process. Like I'm not being judged by anybody anymore. You know what I mean? I was in the sense of, because I was trying to get this job, you know what I mean? But but now I had to relearn that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not being judged by anyone. So that's how that came along. Yeah,
That's
I mean,
real.
like I'm
I'm
supposed to
supposed to
be.
be. I'm
I'm
I
supposed
like
to
that.
be.
That's big,
absolutely.
man.
So, question, because imposter
yes.
syndrome is a real thing.
Oh my
and
gosh, yes.
This is definitely for my professionals, right? My experts.
Yes.
Always, my daughter jokes like, "This lady that's about to do my hair, her hair ain't done." Right?
Right.
Like,
Woo, yes.
How challenging is it?
He about to start cutting my hair. He pulled his durag off. I said, okay, come on, Waze.
Yeah.
But how challenging is it to be an
Man.
expert in the space to take your own advice on the daily? It's like a doctor that
We're
smokes
human.
cigarettes.
Man, this is a
We're
question.
human. It's
yeah.
tough. It's tough.
We're human, exactly. Like, cause even like the question like that, I had a barber and his hair was all jacked up, but he gave the best cuts ever, and so it made me like question like, could it be, is a better barber somebody who can cut his own hair and somebody else's hair? Does that make him a better barber? You know, does that make somebody a better doctor? If they are practicing health and eating vegetarian or whatnot, could they still be just good of a doctor? Because there's some barbers who can't cut their own hair, but they can cut other people's hair.
There's barbers
Like,
with
you know what I mean?
dreads.
There's barbers who
That's real.
There's barbers
That's real.
with dreads. man.
Right.
Some of the
and they know how to
nicest.
do it.
Yeah.
You see?
And I personally think if I had a clinician who was like, I have it all together, I've done all this, I would be like,
Yeah, you want to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
Agreed.
there's something to say for a
Absolutely.
human being and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, this is something I work on too.
I pride myself on not asking my clients to do anything I'm
I
unwilling to
wouldn't
do.
do.
Hence me cutting off my hair. And I was like,
Right.
I'm sitting, be uncomfortable. You grow in times of discomfort. You're going to go down path A, path B. What are you? Nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So I'm like, well, you said you claim you want to be focused on healthy hair and you want to be found and you want to really focus on you being made in God's image. But you value this, and that. And I'm like, I had to really, when she cut my hair last week, she was like, did I just talk you into doing something you didn't want to do? I said, hell yeah. And I need to do it. So let's do it. And she let me cut the first like pieces of my hair. So I was in there and I was like, and I just started bawling because it was so freeing. And I literally got out of the chair and I was like, it's okay. You're gonna look like a little boy for a second and you're beautiful. Like that's what I had to tell myself. And I'm just embracing it. And I'm truly trying to be the change. Like hopefully people can see me and look at me and know that when they come and sit on my couch or even when we in these spaces, she's actually doing the work continuously, even though her degree says master's and blah, 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 blah. She's still
That means we
a
have an
lifelong
education.
learner. Yeah.
That doesn't mean we know everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to say, I don't have all the answers.
For sure.
I'm learning too. So for me, if my therapist was like, yeah, that's something I work on too, I would respect them even more.
Facts.
That's real.
Yep.
That's real.
Some of my best sessions are sometimes when I open up, because in school we were taught,
Don't get personal.
Don't self-disclose.
don't self-disclose. But like sometimes just like opening up about your own struggles, you know, can kind of help somebody to understand
As
and
long as
connect.
it's not about us.
Right,
To help, yeah.
exactly. It has to not be your therapy session because there are therapists who make their own sessions, their sessions. But, you know, kind of one of the dangerous things I always felt like as far as therapy though too is that nobody else is in there watching that therapist, you know? And so I feel like sometimes some black men might avoid for that reason, but like, you know, I looked at it, yeah, because like, and that's one of my fears of hiring another therapist because I would eventually would like to, but it's just like, y'all could be in there talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. Y'all could be talking about the new Kanye album. What do we really know if y'all getting down to business? You see, so like every other profession, if you're a surgeon, if you're a barber, people can see you at work. But when it comes to therapy, it's just you and the client.
And that
It's
was always my my downfall. When my mom passed, I think it's been 14, 15 years. I didn't know how to channel that, you know. She was always my backbone, you know. So I was like, how do I go about, you know, doing that, going to therapy or sitting down talking to someone? Like I could talk to my grandma. My grandma was like a homeboy to me, you know. But I can always go to grandma about everything, you know. I sat down with a therapist, and did I enjoy it? No, because I feel like, you know, I still kind of grieve with certain things, you know, like I had a lady tell me I was cutting her hair, matter of fact, and she was like, "Are you good? Are you all right?" And I was like, to a certain extent. She's like, what are you missing in your life? And I told her, I was like, I don't have that mother experience to where I can, you know, sit back and talk to my mom about certain things or the things I'm going through. And she was just like, you know, she's here, you know, but you have to learn how to not call on her so much. You know, you have to, you know, and like I said, the therapist never really helped me out to that point to where, you know, like where I am now. Like I want to say maybe a couple of years ago, I was on the verge of just going ahead and ending my life because I was just like, I don't have no point in living here. You know, like now I cope with a lot of things, dealing with doing things that I typically didn't do growing up, and I do it now. You know, as a black male, I've always, even go back to your question, you know, like I always had to prove somebody wrong. And now that like I get looked at differently. Like a lot of people don't know, you know, besides, oh, D-Wall, he the barber, you know, I have 2 degrees. I have associate and a bachelor's degree in sports communication.
Period.
And a lot of people don't know that, you know, they just think, oh, he's just a barber or, you know, or he's a square, or he's a, you know, a wannabe street nigga, you know, whatever the case may be. But if you really sit back and look at me, like I have more credentials than a regular person who's, you know, trying to be what they're trying to be, you know.
So it's like would you say that you were counted out before you've been given the opportunity?
I've always been counted out before I gave them the opportunity. Like I done ran into teachers, I done ran into former students, I done ran into people that hated me, you know, all through high school, middle school, whatever case may be. And they're like, oh, what you doing now? I'm like, oh, I'm a full-time barber and I work a part-time job. Oh, okay. That's what's up. You know, like most of them saying what's up, you know, even the teachers, they was just like, oh, okay, how long you been doing that? I've been doing it for, you know, past this many years. You know, I was 10 when I told my mom I wanted to cut hair in a barbershop. She was taking me to a barbershop. I'm like, Mom, I want to cut hair. Yeah. You got to go to school. Oh, okay. I'm 33 now and I'm living my job that I wanted to do, my career.
That's
you know,
I was just gonna say your career.
Yeah, like I never looked down on this. I always said, like, you know, even in college I was cutting hair. You know, I had one of my homeboys. He went to he's from Chicago. He was like, man, I ain't never had a hairline. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I ain't never had a hairline. Like he had dreads, but he never had a hairline. He always just, you know, got the little C cups. Yeah. When I lined him up, he said, bro, what you finna do after you leave from Coffeyville? I said, I don't know. I came home, got a full ride scholarship to Newman. I got an academic scholarship on top of a full ride. Yeah. And I was just like, you know what I'm gonna do after school? I went to school for 3 more years, got my bachelor's, and I'm like, what am I gonna do after this? So I said, you know what? I got in some trouble, you know, whatever, and I sat back and I said, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is my platform. This is where I'm supposed to stand behind. You know, everybody take this to a certain extent. Like, oh, it's too much. I do 11 and a half months in barber school before I do 11 and a half months in jail. And I tell people that, you know, like I said, I had teachers ask me, you know, full blown, like, oh, is that making? Yes, it does what it does.
You did not know they get paid.
Well, that's
Really?
that
Wow.
measuring
Confused.
So
stick.
folks question, that's wild.
Yeah,
Right.
because they look
Right.
at it
They-
like
they don't look at it
it's
like that,
it's
though, you know.
So
cutting
there's
people's
like,
hair.
they said they look down at it.
Basically, like, you know,
All this shit costs.
Right.
And like nowadays, if you do the spray, if you can restore a hairline, if you could, barbers be giving facials in here. I be seeing it, the beard, that's an experience. You're providing an experience.
Right.
So
Yeah.
So it's that measuring stick, though. People see you and they see your profession, and they measure it based on what they perceive to what it to be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's the first question people ask you when they see you.
Yeah.
What do you do?
What do you do?
that's
Yeah,
why
because
class reunions
not even that.
is
They
just
look-
that.
That's why I don't go to class
as a black
reunions.
male, when they see us walking in the room, like,
They look
oh,
at the
okay, he
shoe.
got on Hirachis. I'll bust him all day. He got on Dunks. He got on 97s. On
You got
Jordans.
on 6s.
First thing they're gonna look at me and say is, "What he sell drugs?" I can look at him. Oh, he might be the middleman. He the plug. He the runner. But I'm the head honcho because my shoes or because
It's the hierarchy.
Jury, I was gonna say your chains too.
You know, yeah, right. You know, and that's the first thing that they look at. You know, but when I tell people like I'm a barber, I'm like, what? You are? I don't look like one. Most people can tell you are a barber or a therapist or whatever the case may be.
Wait, how?
I mean, when Chris walked in, like I said, Chris the freshest therapist
I mean,
I've ever seen.
Lights behind him.
I mean, I really don't. I can't tell. what you are, what you do, I can only add. Some people are, you know, I'm like, they might do this, might do that, you know.
But there's a perception that's put on people, right? Like I'm six. How tall are you? 6'4"?
Yeah.
I'm 6'3", right?
Like,
I'm a nice looking black man.
He's shorter than me.
I'm shorter than you.
If I would have said 6'6", he would have said 6'5".
I'd have been 6'5".
There's that measuring stick.
On top. I'm like, okay, I know Sam a little taller than me.
Oh, you should have said 6'6". That would have been funny.
I would have been 6'5" off top. But no, like I know for a fact the perception that gets placed on me, right? I've made it a point, especially in corporate spaces, to communicate the way that I communicate. It's me. I'm mad motivational and inspirational. I use the language that I use, but I make it a point to consciously be me on purpose, because there's been times where I was perceived to be the rude, tall black dude or the angry, tall black dude, right? Or on the flip of that, I'll be out with my family at the store and people will make it a point to come tell me how beautiful my family is. Chris, do people ever stop and tell you how beautiful your family is when you're at the store?
No.
Right? Because there's that thought that, oh, let me make it a point to call out what I see because I don't know if this is a real thing, right? And that goes back to the perception piece of it, which is...
Is that people of all, like, do white people do that? Or is
white
it
people will stop me.
White people will
Older
stop
white
you.
people will stop me.
Because there's the not absentee black father for
I was
once.
gonna say that.
The myth,
Right.
the legend.
Which is, if we go back to what Chris was saying, right? But also, I don't know the stats, but I think these days black men take care of their kids at the highest level, even if the family isn't together.
There was a statistic somebody told me. I didn't fact check this, but it was interesting. He said that there's might be more black males in college than jail.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And I respected this individual, but I never actually fact checked that.
I'm about to.
So I was just like, man, like, because there's a lot of HBCUs.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always skeptical of statistics anyways. I'm like, nobody came to ask me.
Hey, numbers can be skewed all
Yeah,
day.
numbers can be skewed all day. But speaking of statistics, when we could talk about therapy, I believe it was the American Psychology Association said there's only 4% of black clinicians. But that number gets smaller when you men. You see, so like even like here in Wichita, like I'm like one of 6 like practicing black male therapists. This guy Jaron, Jonathan, Caleb, my homie Terry that I'm helping him with his private practice, and then I think there's another guy. So there's like only like 6 of us.
Yeah.
You know, 1 out of 4.
I look on Psychology Today, and that's all I see. Right. Hold on, let me get that thing off.
It was 37% for black males in college right now.
37%. Oh yeah, ChatGPT is fire, huh?
Okay.
But so like when I check Psychology Today, because as much as a mental health advocate as I am, I've yet to identify a therapist, right? Because I want to feel so like I want to be able to go into the therapist's office and be like, man, these niggas is tripping today. Right? I want it to be that type of comfortableness.
Oh, where you feel like the therapist will just go with it.
Here. Yeah, like it's that level of comfort, cultural competency even, right?
It's big.
1,437,363 black men are in college. The Bureau of Justice reported 745,000 are incarcerated.
That's the
In prisons,
statistic.
not
I've
jail.
seen.
So
And think
that's impressive.
Think about
that it's-
why last night in the media, you know, mass entertainment designed to influence all.
Come on.
You see what I'm saying?
17.7% of black men have a bachelor degree, as opposed to the 12% who are incarcerated.
So the stats will show.
The system, you know, they're not talking about it
Yeah.
for a reason.
Talking about the other bars.
Think about if you realized that your dad was LeBron James, but people just told you your whole life that your dad was a felon. And then you realize that your dad is LeBron James. You're going to play differently. You're going to have a little bit level of confidence differently. You see, but if somebody been telling me, man, your dad's just a felony, a deadbeat, but then you realize, no, my dad is LeBron James.
Yeah.
Your whole swag is different. You talk different, you move different. And so for us as black men, you know, we don't really know who we are.
Well, it goes back, I'm thinking to you talking about kids respecting the street game versus the glasses and the square. But once you're heroes, you're realizing, hey, they're putting in the work. They're starting their own businesses. They're living the dream, cutting hair. Like that perception hopefully shifts, and it's not a negative
becomes
thing.
tangible.
Yeah.
My friend Anisha would say, to add to that point, she would say something along the lines of, you shouldn't have to know every part of someone's story before you offer them empathy and grace. It shouldn't be, well, what's going on or da-da-da-da until you begin to offer and hold space and give them a place to just
I like
exist.
that.
That's a
I like
fact.
That. I like that.
That's a fact. Listen, we're gonna wrap it up a little bit, but I got a couple questions I gotta ask. So, Rose, reach out to someone else, right? Is a network of Black therapists. How would somebody get in touch with Rose?
Well, mainly go to the website. It's ro2sc.org. The information's on the website. It's very confidential. So anyone that goes to the website, just submit your information, and we'll get back to you. Hopefully at a timely manner. Sometimes we may not see the emails or may not connect as quick as possible, but it's pretty simple. It's just having that website, ro2sc.org. Anybody having any issues or you may want to sit down and talk. If it's a thing that you may be looking for a therapist, definitely go to the website and just fill out the information, and hopefully we can get someone that can talk to you.
For sure.
Absolutely.
We have a great realm
have
of
a few-
amazing therapists
few
who are partnered with
therapists coming in
Rose.
here. A couple of
In
them
here,
here.
dog.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
partnered with Rose. I take referrals from them.
For
It's
sure.
just
Likewise.
amazing.
So
It's
double
amazing.
down on that. So Rose, we can get in touch with you with the information that Sammy
So,
offered.
and
How
I
else
love-
can people get in touch with you?
healingandharmonytherapy.com. They can also follow me on TikTok, Millennial Black Therapist, and
on TikTok.
Instagram, Healing and Harmony Therapy. And we can phone number 316-749-8975.
For sure. And you specialize in?
Couples, relationships, marriages, premarital. I also do see individuals as well. Anybody who wants to work on establishing healthy boundaries in relationships, healing from trauma, just cultivating a space for my people so we can just be in the mix together. Let's ride is what I say. Let's just take this ride together. Period.
Angie, MHA. How would someone who was seeking services get in touch with MHA?
They can go on mhasck.org. They can call 652-2590. That's our counseling center number. Or 685-1821. That's our main number. So
sure.
There's no wrong way.
I remember that.
I love it. Multiple ways.
Definitely.
Chris, if somebody's trying to get fully connected, how would they get in touch?
Everything is connected, man. So you can go to Google. You can just Google fullyconnectedcounseling.com or just fully connected or just Black therapists. I'll usually pop up. I'm not on Psychology Today just because I'm pretty booked. But you can call it 316-613-9150. And we'll get you connected or we'll connect you with somebody else. That's the key because I'm not the only therapist. Like there's so many therapists in Wichita, man. Yeah. So many therapists in Wichita.
Good therapists too.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So it's no excuse not to take care of yourself.
No. Man, it's 2024. You could see a therapist in Kansas City because it's still in the state of Kansas. You could see a therapist like Lawrence. Like you don't have to you could do telehealth.
And Rose is a big, they're bridging the gap between financial issues. They literally give and offer free therapy to the
3 free sessions.
Yeah.
We offer 3 free sessions.
Right,
but we'll pay for an individual or a family to go see a therapist.
Yep.
That's fire.
Like we talk about mental health.
Fire.
We talk about, how to combat mental health, but we don't talk about how much it costs to go see a therapist, meaning that everyone can afford, to go see a therapist. So it was my wife's 100% her idea. And she's in the therapy world. She saw that was a gap.
Yeah.
So she wanted to be able to bridge that gap and to provide services for people who, couldn't afford it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Chris, if somebody's looking to get some prevention services, they go through the same route.
Yeah, go through the same route. I'm glad Angie knows the numbers because I have no idea. But chris.gilmore@mhasck.org.
I love it. And if somebody's coming to get some unofficial therapy, they trying to get that barber counseling conversation popping, how can they reach you, D-Wall? You taking customers? I know y'all don't do walk-ins.
I'm taking customers. I take walk-ins Tuesday, Wednesdays only. Thursday, Friday, Saturday is appointment only. Occasionally Sundays.
How do we book?
You can text me on 316-491-9264, or you can reach out to me on Instagram, _DWallsCuts. On there. Just pull up.
How late do you cut? Like, what's your latest appointment?
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Say word. Say less.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. Yeah, 6 o'clock.
I'm coming
Right
from a
up your
prime
alley.
time
You
spot.
mind if I chime on something?
Yes, indeed. Before I
talking
close
about
it.
earlier.
Yes,
About
indeed.
that song.
Okay, talk to us.
One thing I come to observe, and especially in the Black community, men in general, is the lack of a father growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I've had the experience of knowing, about 15 years now?
Right, a little longer than 15.
It's probably a little longer than that. But it was years ago. I sat in his house, and that song that you played for me about your dad, I didn't know that. I thought y'all met. I didn't know that you saying that earlier. I never knew that. I thought y'all had met, but I didn't know that. But it was a very vivid song. It was basically, him writing a letter to his father. But the thing I want to commend to you right now, brother, every time I see you, you with your son. The last things. So you're reversing that cycle and that stigma of what so many men Black men, are going through mentally. So I commend you for that.
I received that.
Always.
I received that. I love you for that. Oh, that made my heart smile.
But that's a big thing. Like, we grow up without our fathers.
Listen.
He grew up without his father. I never see him without his son to this day. That's a beautiful thing.
Definition of breaking generational curses right there.
Mhm.
Yeah, 100%.
Every generation works at getting better.
That's it. And then and I'm a part with this. When I hear generational curses, I've recently found myself challenging the word of curses, right?
They do They do the best they can at the time.
They do the best they can with what they know.
What would you call them instead?
I would call them.
That's a good question.
More so,
how can we rephrase that moving forward? Like in that, because I like the way you just put it. I didn't get a curse. We say it all the time, but I actually want to.
I would say what Sam just said: breaking the cycle.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how do you break the cycle of because you do what you know, you do what you know until somebody
Until you
comes
know
in and
better.
shows you something different.
Man,
then you're on a different path.
There's a video on YouTube. Pretty much, you can get a piece of paper, a white piece of paper, and you can put an ant on it. And you can draw a circle around the ant, and the ant won't leave the circle. There's no like actual physical limitations, but it's just a mental blockage.
Yeah.
Eventually, the ant will go into another circle, but you can just draw another circle. It's the same thing like if you keep a horse in a cage, you open up that gate, we all know what happens, they stay stuck. So like, I love what you said about breaking the cycle. That's the key. We all have to break the cycle. There's all a cycle we got to break.
I would just like to add real quick, I just want to thank everyone for being real. And I really want to thank you for talking about suicide and suicidal thoughts, because listen, most of us have them. Right. It's not unusual, but it takes a lot to be open and honest about it. So I really want to thank you.
I elaborate on that night that I was going to do that. I went and set up my mom's gravesite. And as soon as I got out the car and just walked up to it, like I took a minute for me to find it, because I'm like, damn, I ain't been out here in a minute. And I walked up to it. As soon as I walked up to it, I literally just cried. And it was cold. It was a cold night. And I remember the moon was hiding behind the clouds. But as soon as I walked up to I walked up to her and sat down and cried, the clouds moved. And I just felt the moon just shining down on me. Like I couldn't do nothing but just give that. And I think that's probably what I needed, that night, to really just let that out. Because I haven't really let that out, since she's been gone. Like we had our battles. She was trying to keep me out the streets. I couldn't walk up and down the street bouncing the basketball at 8 o'clock in the morning, or she didn't want me walking down the street with my pants sagging, But when I jumped off the porch after, and I felt like she kind of came back and punished me for the stuff that I did jump off the porch to do. Now, I can't do nothing but thank the people around me, and I just give her the most praise, even here or not here. She's guided me to the right direction. And I mean, like I said, there was a couple of years ago when I was thinking about that, like I didn't think about nothing else. Like I was just ready. Like I'm like, what am I living for? And now I know what I'm living for, and now I know what I'm, able to do in my life, So I kind of give that back to everybody, not even my own kids or people around me. I give it back to everybody because they deserve that, So.
Sure. Yeah.
That's real.
Man.
Yeah.
Listen, it's been a powerful, amazing conversation. Like, I appreciate everybody showing up for one, right? Bearing your spirit, your soul, your transparent thoughts, candid conversation. I'm hoping whoever's watching this can gain something from it even, right? And build on some of the conversation. And we got so many topics that I have in my head, I had written down that we didn't even get to dwell into, right? Because the conversation we had was that enriching, right? That honest and that pure and so raw, right? So I appreciate y'all and I love y'all to the max in real life. And the question that I'll part y'all with, and you can ask yourself later, right? But I never ask people how they doing. I say, how's your spirit? Right. So that's something I would challenge you from the experts, right? To the man married to the expert. I know you say y'all married to the expert, right? Working with the youth, D-Wall, right? Even Dre behind the lens. I would challenge y'all to ask yourself daily, how is my spirit? Because you can say, how you doing?
Right.
How are you? How you feel? But how is your spirit? Because your spirit won't ever lie to you. 100%. So this has been Thinking Out Loud with Samuel David. Again, Chris, Angie, Gabby, D-Wall, Sam. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. And we out.
Thank you.
Yo, I got a lot of living to do before I die. I ain't got time to waste. Time don't wait. Everything costs. Time been money. I don't fool with homie. Slime been funny. I don't do no jokes unless I'm the one telling them. Y'all nasty like 69. Y'all boys telling. Stay away from goofies. This is not a movie. Avoiding loopholes from you,